Hey there, friends. Thanks for joining me. My name's Ash with Gents. Hope that you're doing well. Today, I'm going to talk to you guys about 10 different fragrances that blew my mind the first time I smelled them. So these are fragrances that when I was first able to pick up a bottle and give it a spray, it was just an immediate love that I had for these. Now, that doesn't always happen. Actually, most of the time that doesn't happen. Most of the time when I smell a fragrance, it's somewhere in the middle. You know, it's not an instant hate, not an instant love. It's one of those things where you smell it and you go, okay, let's see how this goes. Not these ones. These ones, for whatever reason, I just loved right away. We've got some niche fragrances, indie fragrances, and designer fragrances here today. Let's jump into it and check them out. I'm going to kind of whiffle waffle here, go back and forth. We're going to start niche and then go designer, niche, designer, like that, back and forth like a seesaw. We're going to start things off with big old Freddie M. Frederick Malle MUSC RAVAGEUR. That's how I imagine redneck people would call this brand. Yeah, that's that good old Freddie M. I like some of that stuff, boy. You ever try that MUSC RAVAGEUR? It's good, dude. This one has vanilla, musk, clove, cinnamon, and tonka. With this one, when I first sprayed it on, I was just smitten by the warmth of the spices, that vanilla that's very rich and not at all like syrupy sweet. It has almost a warming effect when I spray this on and I smell it. It's just like all over, you know, it's like it emanates out from my head and warms my whole body. That sounds like I'm talking about drugs. I'm not talking about drugs. The quality here is fantastic. The performance very good as well. MUSC RAVAGEUR deserves its reputation as being one of the pinnacles of niche perfumery, or at least a lot of people would say that. Now we're going into designer land with Bulgari Man in Black, inspired by Johnny Cash, except I don't think so, but it should have been. It has spices, rum, tobacco, leather, and tonka. That's some of the notes in the fragrance. And yes, it smells similar to Spice Bomb by Viktor and Rolf. So it's not really anything that's hyper unique. It's not something that had never been done before as far as the scent profile goes, but I can still remember the first time that I smelled it. I went to my local Belk when I was perusing the fragrance counter. It was not long after this had just come out. They had it up there with the little tester bottle, and I picked it up, gave it a spray, and right away it was like, ooh, I'll take that. Thank you. Nice little 2-ounce bottle. Let's go cheap. But since then, I've also picked up a 5-ounce bottle as well. Now I have way too much that I'll never use. But that's because I love the fragrance. I think this thing is fantastic, and I think it does enough to set it apart from Spice Bomb to make it worthwhile, which is why I picked it up pretty much right away. That bit of boozy warmth and sweetness combining with tobacco and an overload of spices makes Man in Black a killer fragrance in fall and winter, especially during the evening, and it's a big time compliment puller as well. Love the scent. Then we have one of my newest pickups of the bunch. This is from Zoologist, and it's CHIPMUNK. So Zoologist, it's a tricky proposition for their brand with their fragrances, because either you make something that's really hardcore avant-garde, something like the original Bat, and then people go, oh man, that is amazing. That's so crazy how unique that is. And then a lot of people go, yeah, but I'll never wear it. So you have, you know, that side you could go to, or you could take the path that is make it as wearable as possible so that more people could buy it and pull it off in more situations. But then you have those people that are big fans of the more avant-garde stuff, and they'll smell those releases and go, oh, what is this garbage? Ugh, a wearable fragrance, I hate it. So it's like you have to straddle the line. You have to try to make it, you know, unique and artistic, but also wearable so that people actually buy it and wear it and then have to buy a new bottle because they wore the old one. It's an issue. Thankfully for me, CHIPMUNK does that. It goes right down the middle. This thing is completely wearable. You can pull this off in the fall, especially very well. It's got a great hazelnut note. You know, you gotta have something nutty in there if you got a little monk. Then you also have spices, woods, and resins in here as well. And as soon as I smelled this, I was like, yeah, that's something I could rock with right there. Still unique enough that it scratches that indie niche, that reason that so many people do buy indie fragrances, trying to get something very much off the beaten path that's going to give you an interesting olfactive experience. It does that, but it's still, as I mentioned like 6 times now, wearable. Oh, and interestingly, completely unrelated, I did not get this from Twisted Lily, but this is now available at Twisted Lily. And at twistedlily.com, you can use code GENTS10 to get yourself 10% off the entire website. So just keep that in mind. If there is any zoologist fragrance that you wanted, 10%, GENTS10, Twisted Lily, zoologist, blah, blah, blah. Next up, we got that old Valentino UOMO Intense. Yeah, I love you, Valentino UOMO Intense. This one's got iris, vanilla, tonka, and leather, and it's the iris in here that does it for me. When iris is used in the style that it is here, it just kind of calls to me, speaks to my inner basic bro or something. So a little bit similar to Dior Homme Intense, a little bit similar to Gentleman Eau de Parfum. More so, they're all in the same family, you know, they're like second cousins or something like that. But the creamy tonka and iris in here combined just absolutely blow me away every time, still to this day. And the little bit of leather that's in here gives it that slight masculine edge that really helps elevate this fragrance into the upper echelons of designer fragrances for me personally. It is one of those scents that can still be a little bit divisive because of that iris, but for me, that's just an absolute love stunner. Then we're gonna go with a L'Humaniste from Frappant. Yeah, L'Humaniste. This has one of the better smelling openings of darn near anything. It's got lemon, bergamot, juniper, and gin. It has this lively, fresh, effervescent citric opening that just captures my attention every time. It's sweet, it's uplifting, it's natural, innocent. It smells great. The big issue with this one is that opening. That's pretty much the scent. It doesn't last too long, settles down pretty quickly, becomes a skin scent, but for while it lasts, it is just amazing smelling. I really love it. Then we're gonna go with another fragrance where the opening just does it for me. Light Blue Forever. I've talked about this a whole bunch on the channel, so I'm not gonna harp on it all that much here. It has a very rindy grapefruit opening. It's tart, it's sweet, it's fresh. As it dries down, you get a lot of muskiness that comes out of clean white musk. A little bit of vetiver in there as well, which I very much enjoy. That little vetiver that sits on top of everything gives it a little classy edge as it dries. This is one of my favorite releases designer-wise over the last couple years, really. The Light Blue Forever, that one surprised the pants off me. If you could see from here down, my pants just blew right off when I smelled that thing, and those are my favorite pants. Next, we got a fragrance from Inica. This is an independent fragrance house. They don't release things all that often. I think the last release was from 2019, which I do not have. The last release that I have from the house is from 2015. I can still remember when that thing came out. I was like, oh wow, here we go, finally something new. And I really like that one too, by the way. But the fragrance house is Inica, and the fragrance is Field Notes from Paris. I've got very little left in here, but that's okay because I got another bottle. So this has beeswax, it has tonka, coriander, a couple different types of tobacco in here as well. It's not really a straightforward pipe tobacco in the sense that a lot of people would expect. You know, that sort of honeyed pipe tobacco. It's not that, even though you do have beeswax as a note in here. This makes more use of a tobacco blossom as well as coriander, and it gives it this sort of freshness while at the same time it has this very slight, dusty, almost powdery sweetness from that beeswax. It smells great. It's completely unisex, so ladies can pull this off just as easily as men. This is not a fragrance that, you know, leans heavily onto the masculine side of things. You don't have any, you know, smokiness in here, and as I mentioned before, it doesn't smell like your more typical pipe tobacco like you might find in Pure Havana or Naxos or something like that. If memory serves correctly, it's just under $100 for 75 mils, and I think that is absolutely worth the price. It is the standout from the house for me. The next best would probably be Idlewild, which is the one that came out in 15, but the performance on that one is a little shaky. Back to designers. Lanui Bleu Electrique. Yeah, like Light Blue Forever, talked about this one a whole bunch, so I won't harp on it that much here. Cardamom, lavender, ginger, and cedar. It smells very similar to the original La Nuit de l'Homme Eau de Toilette when you spray this on, because that cardamom is front and center, but here it's a little bit fresher, a little bit more modernized, so it has more usability. The original La Nuit de l'Homme, most people would say, oh, that's a nighttime fragrance for date nights only. That's kind of how it gets pigeonholed. La Nuit de l'Homme Bleu Electrique, though, it has much more versatility. This thing you could pull off daytime, nighttime, nearly year round. So with this one, I was expecting another kind of wet fart of a fragrance from Yves Saint Laurent. And when I sprayed it on, I thought to myself, holy heck, they've done something really good here. They've taken the L'Eau de L'Homme DNA that so many people loved, reimagined it and tweaked it just enough to make it unique again. And kind of, for me anyway, right now, is on top of the whole L'Eau de L'Homme hierarchy. Then we have from Masque Milano, Tessa. I got this recently as well, and man, especially off a tester strip, it is just fantastic. And it's hard not to be impressed by this bottle, frankly, because the box is huge. So you get that in and you're like, what is in here? You know, you open it up and it's just this monstrosity of a Masque Milano bottle, because I'm used to those Masque Milano bottles that are little bitty ones, little 30 mils, or 35. I'll actually go ahead and grab one. Yeah, so here's this one and here's the other. So I'm used to these, right? And then this big bad boy comes out of the box. You're like, whoo, okay. Iris, champagne, leather, and oak moss off a tester strip again. It is one of the best smelling irises I have ever smelled. Yes, it's more a powdery iris. Again, very unisex here, at least in the opening. As it dries down, it gets a little more masculine, but it is hard to describe just how nice it comes across. On skin, you do get a little more contrast going on. Off a tester strip, that iris is really front and center, just the star of the show through and through. And it still is on skin as well, but off skin, you get more of that patchouli, that oak moss, giving kind of an earthy edge to the iris. And then you get that sort of bubbly sweetness of champagne kind of creeping up through the powdery iris. Again, it's really hard to describe how good that smells if you're a big time fan of iris, but that one absolutely stopped me in my tracks. And then bringing up the rear, Prada Luna Rossa Black. As of right now, this is my favorite Prada from their main lines, talking Luna Rossa and L'Homme, not including the ones that are discontinued, you know, who are taken to us or taken from us before their time. This has tonka, amber, bergamot, and patchouli as some of the notes in the fragrance. It is reminiscent of Bulgari Black and Midnight in Paris from Van Cleef & Arpels. Both of those fragrances also discontinued. It's got a lot of sweetness to it, a little bit of powder and warmth as well. The Angelica, kind of an interesting contrast that you don't see used in designer fragrances very often at all. Little splash of bergamot in the opening, not too much. I've talked incessantly about Luna Rossa Black in the past on this channel, much like L'Eau de L'Homme Bleu Electrique and Light Blue Forever. So I'm not going to talk about that too much here today, but it is a fragrance where I sprayed it on and I thought to myself, Prada's taking a bit of a chance, doing something a little bit different here. Because before this, you had the original Luna Rossa, which is a fine fragrance in itself. Luna Rossa Sport and Luna Rossa Eau Sport, which, you know, they continue along with the freshness theme of the Luna Rossa line. And you had Luna Rossa Carbon, which is Sauvage, of course. So you had these fragrances that were made just for versatility and sporty situations, which kind of goes in line with that Luna Rossa theme. And then black, just way different. And you know, thank God for that, because I like it when these designer houses come out with a new release or a flanker that really tries to do something different, even if it's different, but smells like discontinued fragrances that came before them. You know, I'll say, at least it's not another Invictus style fragrance. So there we go, 10 fragrances that blew me away at first sniff, some more than others. All right, guys, that's gonna do it for me. Thanks for hanging with me today. Thanks for all your support. Stay safe out there, and I'll see you tomorrow with another fragrance video. See you guys later.